There are managers, creative directors, photo editors that we've been chasing for years, Kirsten, and won't open an email, won't take our call. You just got to keep trying, because what I've learned is if on one particular day when you're ready to give up, they may notice something and have a job. But I think, and again, going back to the more you get, the more you get. So if you have an established portfolio, I think the chances are better that a top creative director at, a movie studio or a big ad agency is going to look at your work. But I can tell you daily, my agent and I talk about, why won't this person hire me? Why won't this person consider me? It never ends, and when you're younger, I think you just have to be that much more hungry and just continue to create great work, because eventually it's going to get noticed. I think people nowadays aren't as patient as they were. People want instant gratification, right? Instant text, it's funny, we do these portfolios and I have this internet and my website, and I realize that, we'll ask people and they won't even get past the first page. And I'll say, well, did you see my travel portraits? What? So it's hard when we put all this work in and realize that maybe someone's going to spend 10 seconds on your website. What a bummer. But that's just the way it is, and you try your best and accept it or find something else to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, I come back to my stepdaughter. She started university in September, and she's in a town called York, which is a university town over here in the UK. And of course, thousands of students. They have 2 universities in that one. It's not even a big town, but they've got 2 unis there. Thousands of students who all start at the same time. Of course, everybody's looking for a job. The competition level is extremely high, and the number of jobs is limited because it's not necessarily a very large town. So, she, in the beginning, I think she was suffering from the same thing. Like, she was applying for one job and she, got turned down, and it was like, oh no, I didn't get the job. I'm super proud of her now because some things clicked. I think she's applied for 60 or 70 jobs, and she's finally had even just an interview, But, and this is the thing that I've been saying to her, like, virtually every day. It's like, if somebody says no, you just move on to the next thing. Like, don't sweat it. Just, and if you have to write 20 applications, fine. If it's 30, fine. If it's 40, fine. You just keep going. The proof is there are other students in that town that have jobs. If they can do it, you can do it. You just have to want it more,
When I think back to how hard it was to get where I am today and the chances that I took and the breaks that I got, I don't know that I could do it again. You know what I mean? But when you're younger, you are hungry, and if you don't eat, you got to find a way to eat, right? And that's kind of how it was in New York, is that, we were there and we could barely pay the rent. And it was, I've got my degree in photography, but where I really learned the business of photography was in New York City. The other thing that I encourage people to do when they can is travel, even if they don't want to shoot. Travel, when I'm photographing somebody on the street that is potentially homeless or doesn't know where their next meal, it kind of makes your pain seem a lot less when you see somebody else who is making $1 a day in Vietnam, just working their butt off to try and feed their family. For me, the traveling has been a great grounding mechanism to where I don't get as upset when I don't get a job or things don't go my way. It's a good, you can reflect. As bad as you think you've got it, trust me, there's other folks that are working harder than you and have it worse than you.
Yeah, and that's just what I call perspective, and sometimes you just need to. And I call it I call it sort of zooming out. Like, sometimes you just have to look at life at a wider focal length to take more and actually, see what's going on around you and, what other people have to go through. And at that point, you realize that, yeah, I'm not the worst off person in the room. This is like actually,
Zoom out's a great way to look at it. Great term for sure.
and it's my wife always calls it, she does a gratitude thing, virtually almost every day, I think. And I sort of taken that, because I think at first I thought, oh, well, that's just an esoteric thing. What are you doing? But so since then, as I've realized, it's a really important thing because it just makes you just reflect on, on your own life. So you mentioned some of the trials and tribulations that you had to go through, especially in the beginning of your career. Tell me something about one of those obstacles that you had to overcome early on.
Well, I think looking back in the very beginning, the hardest thing was just being in a city in New York. You get there and you think you're pretty good at what you do, whether you're a musician or a photographer, and you get there and all of a sudden you realize you're this big and you're a nobody. That especially for me was really hard to walk down Fifth Avenue wondering, where am I going to get my next job, and seeing the thousands of people pass you, Kirsten, every second. Humbling would not be the best word. To me, it just depressed me beyond words. I thought there's no way that I can rise above this. There's too many people here trying to do the same thing as me. And just like you told your daughters, I couldn't give up because it didn't have a parachute to fall back into. I didn't have anything else that I was good at. It's kind of why I got into photography in the beginning, because I wasn't very good at anything else. It was just haphazard that I fell into it. But there's just been time after time when I'd go in with my portfolio and they'd say, oh, your work is nice, we'll get back to you. I've heard we'll get back to you 1,000,000 times. Even
Yes.
today, when I don't get a job, I'm like, why didn't they give me that job? That's the hardest thing to hear is, boy, your work's really nice, but we'll get back to you. And, there's been a couple of instances in my career where and it was a people thing. Either that person liked me or we found common ground on something we were talking about, and they gave me a chance. Right? Everybody just wants a chance. It's, and when you get that chance, boy, you gotta come through. That's the biggest thing is if you finally get to that point and somebody says, all right, Kirsten, we're going to give you this job and see what you can do. Man, you can't blow it. You got to bring home the goods, So, but I think it was just continuing on and seeing where an opportunity might be, and instead of going this way, going that way, and seeing, well, maybe this will work. But I think New York or any big city, it's probably the same in London. If you're hungry enough, you'll find a way.
Hey, let me just jump in real quick to tell you about the amazing sponsor of this episode, Platypod. Platypod offers innovative camera support systems designed to unleash your creativity. With their stable, versatile, and portable solutions, you can capture stunning shots like never before. And I'm not just saying that. As the host of the Camera Shake podcast, I can personally vouch for Platypod's incredible products. They've become an integral part of the show. In fact, I'm surrounded by various Platypod products holding up lights, cameras, microphones, and so on. It's really helped to transform the way I make the show and the way I shoot at home, in the studio, and on location. But don't just take my word for it. Explore Platypod's website at www.platypod.com to discover their range of products, including the Platypod Extreme, Platypod tripod heads, and the brand new handle, of course. Make sure to follow Platypod on Instagram and Facebook at Platypod Tripods for exclusive updates, tips, and giveaways. By choosing Platypod, you're not only investing in your photography, but you're also supporting the Camera Shake Photography Podcast. Thanks again to Platypod, our amazing sponsor. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. I remember the phrase, don't call us, we call you, very well. Because, I remember when I first moved to London, I went to music college over here in London. And then, of course, when I graduated, it was like, okay, well, to get some jobs, some session jobs or whatever. and you do auditions, or you get in touch with people. And I remember I kept hearing it, and I kept thinking, shit, I have to get a phone line. I don't even have a phone line. They say they're going to call me. I need a phone line. I paid for that phone line for years and never had a call through. It was completely pointless. But it ultimately, it will just, you're right, it just boils down to personal connections. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.